Hi everyone. First things first, I just want to let you know that at the suggestion of several people, I am planning on joining Patreon. I should have an account up shortly, at which point you can all help motivate me to make more videos through the promise of filthy lucre. Now that the really important stuff is out of the way, I'm just going to apologize again for the long absence, as usual. I've been meaning to make this video ever since Elliot Rodger threw his homicidal tantrum, but it seemed like every time I had the chance, there was some new development or piece of information to add to the discussion. Not new details about the victims, or the investigation, or the sequence of events, of course, but new details about how the men's rights movement is ultimately responsible for Rodger's actions. Oh wait, it's not the MRM, it's pervasive cultural misogyny which reinforces male feelings of entitlement to women's bodies and the idea of women as mere objects to have sex with. Oh wait, it is the MRM, because he was an active MRA, and of course the MRM is all about misogyny and male entitlement to women's bodies. I know that's pretty much all I talk about, how much I hate women and how awesome it is to view women's bodies as public property. We also love teaching men that seeing women as mere objects to have sex with is totally what it means to be a real man. All hail patriarchy. The alleged association between Rodger and the MRM first appeared in the Daily Kos, a far left-leaning website that allows pretty much anybody to publish pretty much anything, and not have their real-life name attached to it. In this case, the user, or journalist, calls himself or herself oligarchy. The article in question claimed, among other things, that Rodger was influenced by the men's rights movement. Note the scare quotes. And went on to provide some pretty solid evidence, such as Rodger's YouTube subscriptions, which included such highly regarded MRM channels as Kelly Blue Book, Motor Trend, and the Young Turks, even Pokemon. Also included in his subscription list were a handful of pickup artist channels, and as we all know, MRAs and PUAs are exactly the same thing. We know this because we MRAs can't make it through a single sentence without uttering the word alpha, talking about scoring some poon, and discussing the virtues of negging. Sounds legit to me. Of course, the fact that Rodger was also subscribed to and participated in an anti-PUA forum is immaterial because even though MRAs and PUAs are the same thing, apparently anti-PUAs are also MRAs. We got us a big tent over here, people. Only things you need to join are a bad attitude and a big old bucket of misogyny. Anyway, from the Daily Kos and the claims of the highly esteemed award-winning journalist oligarchy, the entire thing turned into a huge exercise in internet telephone and feverish woozling, with more mainstream and reputedly more credible publications such as The Guardian, HuffPo, The New York Post, and Time publishing articles not just repeating the claims through use of such precise and informative phrases as "some have criticized the men's rights movement" and "many media sources have reported," but embellishing them to the point where Rodger was not merely influenced by the MRM, he was, among other things, an active MRA. I think this is what pickup artists call the negging/agree and amplify combo ultra ninja move. Now we have feminist bloggers and YouTubers flinging around accusations willy-nilly about Rodger, the MRM, what we think and believe, the ideas we promote, all of which are apparently 100% true and accurate because they read it on cracked.com and it sounded legit to them. I'm not going to rebut any of these accusations because, frankly, I'm sick of having to do it, and other people have done an incredible job of it already. I think they should be rewarded for their efforts, and I'll put links to the videos in the low bar. Bane666 was particularly thorough and provided a ton of evidence along with some kick-ass arguments. Go and watch it, and the others if you have the time. Of course, it was only 7.5 minutes after the shooting when the Yes All Women hashtag was born. Not to vilify or spread fear and distrust of men, mind you, but to explain to everyone that all women live in terror of the horrible things men do. See? Totally different. Context, people. Some gems of wisdom and logic from the Yes All Women Twitter campaign included, but were not limited to, and yes, I'm paraphrasing, yes, all women, because the backlash against yes, all women proves yes, all women is necessary. Psh, I could say the same thing about fascism, intestinal worms, or syphilis, but I wouldn't expect anyone to take me seriously. Fairly quickly, Yes All Women became a clearinghouse for every minor annoyance in a woman's life, from being hit on by an awkward guy, to being told to smile by passers-by, to feeling pressure to shave their legs. A million microaggressions piled one on top of the other in 140 characters or less. The very same people who reblogged more than 38,000 times, no less, Charles Clymer's mathematically challenged and statistically retarded assertion that men are 11 times more likely to be hit by an asteroid than to be falsely accused of rape, are now using a mass shooting, an event whose odds of happening to any woman are about as high as getting struck by lightning on a clear day while sitting in your living room, to justify an airing of every possible grievance feminist women might have against men. When some men felt collectively blamed for the fears, dare I say androphobia, of feminist women Twitterers, let's call them feminist twits for convenience, it was declared by the feminist gynocracy that not all men are like that is not only a completely invalid point that derails the conversation, it's actually an attack on women's ability to freely share their experiences. Dude, stop defending yourself from my prejudicial and unjustified attacks. Don't you know that's derailing and attacking my feelings? I bet you hate your mother. It wasn't long after that the hashtag #YesAllCats was created, which featured such treasures as "Don't tell us to stay inside, tell dogs to stop chasing us," hashtag #YesAllCats, hashtag #YesAllCats, because when I shit on the lawn, people think I'm weird, and because meow means meow, but mew doesn't always mean mew, hashtag #YesAllCats. Tumblr feminists responded with alacrity. Not surprisingly, the only reasonably sane coverage of Elliot Rodger's rampage came from a handful of right-wing news outlets, not because the right-wing media has never been known to exploit a tragedy to further their particular agenda, but because there just wasn't really a right-wing agenda in this particular tragedy screaming to be exploited, with the possible sole exception of some speculation that Rodger was a closet homosexual. But what's really been getting all of the play in the media is a left-leaning cornucopia of grievances: the feminist agenda, which goes hand in hand with the anti-MRA agenda, the gun control agenda, the mental health agenda. I've even heard it argued that if only sex work was legal and destigmatized, this kid might have gotten laid and 7 people might still be alive. There's just not a whole lot the right can get themselves worked up over in this. Maybe the next mass murder will be better for them. Who knows? Of course, those of us wanting to draw attention to the very real problem of untreated mental illness are portrayed by feminists as attacking, insulting, and stereotyping people who are mentally ill. Because, according to them, it wasn't mental illness. It was maleness and whiteness that done did it, don't you know? Even though Rodger was biracial. Half white, half male, half misogynist. And, of course, there are rampant and uncited accusations of MRAs defending Rodger, justifying his actions, even sympathizing with him. Because, of course, we're all such giant misogynists, we literally cheer and high-five each other, whenever some absolutely not crazy, perfectly sane, just trying to fit in with the culture when in Rome, right? Random dude empties a magazine into a bunch of women. Frankly, we don't have the time for much else because our culture is so misogynistic that this kind of misogynistic mass shooting happens, in the words of one young feminist named Claudia Bolin, all over the place. Like 3 whole times over the last quarter century in the US and Canada combined. Anyway, I've just been kind of watching this entire thing unfold with this sense of not shock, not incredulity, not disbelief, not anything like that. More like, so what else is new? So I went and gave a second comforting read to a particularly magnificent article called This complex and tragic event supports my own view, which I will link in the low bar. Go and read it, it's very good. And I went and looked for a nice handbasket at bedbathandbeyond.com because it kind of feels to me like we're all headed somewhere unpleasant, and I'd like to be prepared. I don't know that I can add anything to the conversation at this point that other people haven't already said, other than to wonder how a man who wanted a woman to feel attraction, desire, admiration, and appreciation for him was pushed to a homicidal rage by a culture that sees women as mere objects to have sex with. Objects don't feel desire or admiration. I also wonder why, if he felt he was entitled to women's bodies, the way our culture has reputedly told him he should, he was a 22-year-old virgin rather than a 22-year-old rapist. But that's feminist logic for you, I guess. I also have to wonder how blaming, in whole or in part, poorly managed mental illness is removing culpability from the offender, but blaming whiteness, maleness, and societal misogyny isn't. Anyway, the shooting has drawn a huge amount of media attention to the MRM, most of it bad, and convinced feminists to redouble their efforts to stamp us out. The fact that this shooting occurred only a month before what will probably be the largest conference on men's issues to date has made that conference a hub of feminist opposition and rancor. Late last week, Paul Elam of A Voice for Men received a letter from the hotel hosting the event, indicating that a series of escalating threats had been made by phone against speakers, attendees, hotel staff, and hotel guests. Now, there are some questions in my mind as to how credible or even extant these alleged threats are, and whether they're anything we really need to worry about. Personally, I'm of the belief that, given one of our speakers is Senator Ann Cools, any such threats should be being vigorously investigated by multiple levels of law enforcement. But as far as I can tell, that doesn't seem to be the case. That said, I find all of this highly ironic, considering the fact that following Rodger's shooting spree, someone started a White House petition to have the Obama administration classify the MRM, the entire MRM, as a terrorist group. Certainly makes sense to me. Anyhow, the hotel has demanded additional security measures and insurance with a price tag of about $25,000. Within 24 hours, A Voice for Men had raised the necessary funds, a whopping $275 of which was donated by the reputedly ubiquitous and abundant feminists who are not like that, through a dedicated donation button just for them. And I'm going to leave the link to that in the low bar, just in case Sale Polani or Deb or any of my other biggest fans will know where they can go and contribute. While we have raised the needed funds, the hotel is contractually entitled to demand even greater and more expensive measures if they deem necessary. So, Sale Polani, Deb, any of you feminists who are not like that, please feel free to hit that one-time donation of $25. Now, regardless of whether these threats that the hotel has told us they've received are real or not, whether they're credible or not, what we do know is that comments have been made online to the effect that some individuals who oppose this conference are intending to be there armed against us. Now, maybe it's serious, maybe it's just trolling. And if it is trolling, then I hope sincerely that you trolls will rethink your tactics, given that the terms of service of most websites include permission for those sites to hand over all of your information to the federal government if required, and you are literally making terroristic threats of violence against an event that includes a sitting Canadian senator. Whatever it may be, trolling or not, I certainly think there's cause for concern. And in light of that concern, fellow honey badgers Alison Tiemann, Rachel Edwards, and I cooked up this beauty the other night, and I'll be wearing it for at least part of the conference. Isn't it pretty? And look, we put a handy-dandy badger right smack dab in the middle of the target, so any piece of shit, cowardly, feminist dumb fucks who show up intending to engage in violence will know exactly where to aim. The Badgers and I will also in the next day or two be unveiling our cunning plan to thwart any feminists and other psychos who might think that violence is the appropriate answer to people saying things they don't like. Look for that either here or at the Honey Badger YouTube channel. And to all of you feminist hysterics out there attempting to pin Elliot Rodger on the MRM, please stay retarded. If nothing else, it's amusing.